The high-speed hero, Olock.
Welcome back to another My Hero Academia Vigilantes Season 2 breakdown, this time going over Episode 3, titled Public and Private. Of course, we are going to be breaking down the episode, going over all of the hidden Easter eggs and references, as well as the entire season, so be sure to Detroit, smash that like button, and subscribe to the Kohici channel so you don't miss any My Hero Academia Vigilantes breakdowns. Now, the episode begins with the anime skipping over all of Chapter 36, that was pretty much about Narufest deciding on what merch they wanted to sell. We head over to All Might as we see a giant Shisa lion on the loose. It's stated that this could either be a gigantified villain or an ancient beast incarnate, which does sort of imply that there are possibly other supernatural or mystical elements in the world of My Hero Academia other than just quirks like possible ancient beings, which is wild to think about. On top of that, a jumbo Goya is out of control due to extreme weather patterns and a supersized tofu from a genetics experiment gone wrong are terrorizing the citizens as well. But All Might arrives and makes quick work of the threats. He even says his iconic "I am here," but adding a funny twist saying "I am here" one moment and gone the next, further proving that Deku's "I am here" in the future holds a lot more weight behind it because Deku's "I am here" is a lot more personal for the person it's being said to compared to All Might's "I am here" that's being said for more of the public to feel safe rather than the person. At All Might's agency, we see that All Might is meeting Tsukauchi at Might's cafe. All Might is super excited to meet with Tsukauchi as he's been needing some real conversation lately, highlighting how lonely the symbol of peace truly is in having to deal with the pressure of One for All and being the world's symbol of peace alone, which is exactly what All Might tries to help Deku stray from that same lonely path during Deku's vigilante arc. All Might notices Tsukauchi's arm and Tsukauchi tells him that he got hurt on the job by a villain. All Might is frustrated that Tsukauchi didn't call for help because he would have came running. Tsukauchi lets him know that All Might can't go on jobs for personal reasons because if word got out that he prioritized saving certain people, then villains might use him as a diversion or as a hostage to get to All Might. All Might is the public figure who never reveals his private life because that's how the greatest hero of all time is meant to be. All Might agrees with Tsukauchi and the two exchange gifts, which is a sweet and sort of a sad moment because when you think about it, Tsukauchi is kind of All Might's only friend, and this is really the only time he gets to be normal. All Might gave Tsukauchi some rose-scented bath salts that he got on the job and suggested that it would be best to give it to his sister. Tsukauchi is going to make sure to hide the fact that the gift had came from All Might himself due to his sister being a person of interest and he could see her using his connection to All Might to her advantage. At home, Tsukauchi hands Makoto the gift and begins to talk to her about Pop Step. She refuses to give up any personal information on Pop and doesn't like that he is treating Pop like a criminal. Tsukauchi tries to explain that Pop was caught up in a villain's plot and is needed for an interview. Despite her being at the wrong place, wrong time, and Pop wanting to leave the matter behind her, Pop is still a vigilante by night and he can't overlook a minor repeatedly engaging in risky acts. In the end, the two decide to set the whole Pop situation to the side and Makoto starts investigating the gift that she received and comes to the conclusion that her brother is working with someone from All Might's agency. Tsukauchi takes the gift back because of her snooping and decides he's going to make use of the gift instead. The next day at the Hopper's shop, Kamayan returns back to the Hoda brothers and is pissed at how society treats heteromorphs now that he has fully become one permanently due to Trigger. Tsukauchi explains that all of the charges against him were dropped since he was the real victim the entire time as he was forced to take the drugs and that his anger should be aimed at the villain factory that kidnapped and bioengineered him, which, if we know anything about bioengineering a person in My Hero Academia, then you bet All For One and Garaki are the ones behind Kamayan's suffering. Kamayan explains that his anger stems from how society views heteromorphs like him. Once he was released from custody, he couldn't fit through his apartment door anymore, not being able to get in his home, and soon realized that there was nowhere in town that he could truly enter because the doors are made for regular sized humans. When he has to use the bathroom, he has to go in the tub with a bunch of newspaper because the toilet is too small for him. He lost his old way of living and now lives in the Hopper's warehouse. Tsukauchi suggests that due to his situation, he can apply for public housing services for individuals with unusual bodies. Kamayan gets rightfully pissed off at this because why does he need to live somewhere else because of his size? They try to brush his problems under the rug by saying he is the only giant complaining about it, but Kamayan responds saying all this inconvenience is because their society is still only half-baked, where the needs of minorities aren't being addressed by infrastructure and social programs. The brothers then once again brush Kamayan's problems under the rug, dropping the conversation entirely as they smell the rose scent on Tsukauchi. Now, Kamayan's struggle highlights exactly how heteromorphs feel in the world of My Hero Academia, where despite not speaking up about the way society treats those like Kamayan, where living everyday life is an inconvenience simply for doors and infrastructure of public areas not being made with giant-sized people and heteromorphs in mind. And just because they don't say anything, it doesn't mean that these minority groups aren't feeling that pain. And the way society responds to their pain is perfectly reflected through the Hoda brothers' response to Kamayan's struggle, by simply brushing these problems under the rug and putting these people where no one can see them with those public housing services so that the image of a great and functional hero society looks good from the outside. This half-baked society is exactly why there was a need for Shigaraki to rise, and why all of this ignoring of heteromorphs eventually boils over to the point they are manipulated by All For One during the war to essentially do the wrong thing by helping the villains destroy society, but for the right reason of wanting to see true change. Thankfully, Shoji prevents this and guides the heteromorph down the right path, making true progress for them over the years. At the Hopper shop, we see a weird twisted looking fake All Might figure that kinda reminds me of the Pot of Greed card from Yu-Gi-Oh! And Dark Might from the Your Next movie. We even get a mini cameo appearance from the pro hero Snatch, who appears on a poster in the shop, and we know that in the future, Snatch does die by being burned alive by Dabi. Tsukauchi once again meets All Might, where he goes on a rant about his sister trying to take advantage of him because he is her older brother, and she knows that no matter what, he will always be there for her. We switch over to Kohici, where the anime changes the Karate Club from being a reference to the Mazinger Z anime to the Karate Club being a reference to Mechagodzilla and mecha versions of kaiju. Here, Koichi discovers a newfound ability deflecting the mini missiles, but quickly gets smacked around by the Karate Club. We head back to Tsukauchi as he is reviewing the surveillance tapes from the other day and sees that number 6 had taken them all down with his super speed in less than a second. They come to the conclusion that number 6 is the type of speedster whose brain is working just as quick as his speed. In the world of My Hero Academia, some people can see, hear, and think at hyper speed, where to them, it's like the rest of the world is frozen in place. This is an ability called heightened focus, where some heroes are able to deal with gunfire barehanded due to their heightened focus. An ability we have seen Deku use in the movies as well as against Lady Nagant. Tsukauchi had never heard of this ability being used to this extent before and believes that the villain's quirk could have been boosted by Trigger, but he holds on to what Tanuma said about the rest of the world being frozen in place. Tsukauchi's investigation leads him back to the Hopper's shop, where he asks Aizawa about the high-speed hero Olock. Olock's design and quirk being entirely inspired by the Flash and the Speed Force from the DC universe. Turns out Olock was a veteran crime fighter from the last generation. His trademark move made use of his acceleration quirk to land 4 simultaneous instantaneous blows on an opponent, but there hasn't been any word of his exploits for years. Apparently, the hero stopped renewing his hero license a few years back. Aizawa isn't sure why Tsukauchi is so interested in Olock all of a sudden, and Tsukauchi explains the deal with the villain in Osaka having a similar quirk to Olock's. Aizawa assumes that Tsukauchi believes this to be the case where an old hero had turned to the side of villainy, but Tsukauchi makes it clear that the ages of the hero and villain don't line up for them to be the same person. The villain could possibly be the hero's son or a possible pupil of the hero. We then switch over to number 6 training in his accelerated state, reaching his limit of being able to hit 8 instant blows on a target, surpassing Olock's 4 instant blows. All for One tells number 6 that he wouldn't need to hone his skills if he used guns like he did the other day, but 6 refuses because he prefers to punch. All for One lets him do as he wishes, as he will be able to provide more data this way. After their conversation, 6 says using guns is not heroic at all and calls Olock his master. Number 6 and Kohici now paralleling Deku and Shigaraki in being successors. At Koichi's home, Kohici shows Pop his new move, being able to use the repelling force from his hand to shoot a can of soda from his palm. It turns out that he actually doesn't need to activate his quirk through all 4 of his limbs, as he remembers that when he was a child, he did try to use his quirk while standing, but fell over a lot, and eventually formed a habit of using his quirk through all 4 of his limbs for stability. And now, if he takes a stable sumo wrestler-like stance, the thrust force from his palms will have all of his weight and power behind them, and he's able to shoot off blasts of repelling force from his palms. One of the blasts almost hits Pop and breaks his window, and Pop shows Kohici the board they made to let them know where not to cross the line of what's okay and what isn't. They remember Knuckle Duster's roughness, and Kohici agrees that he probably shouldn't model his life after Knuckle Duster's. And we end the episode with Pop letting him know that Knuckle Duster is the gold standard for his actions being wrong. Now, this episode adapted about 2 chapters, them being chapters 37 and 38, with them of course skipping chapter 36. This was an amazing episode hinting at some deep ties between a former pro hero and the main villain of the series, number 6, which is super exciting because we're going to be learning a whole bunch more about that pro hero Olock in the future. Let me know your thoughts on the 3rd episode of My Hero Academia Vigilantes Season 2. Let me know everything in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, then be sure to Detroit smash that like button, and if you are new to the Kidoroki channel, then be sure to subscribe to the channel with notifications on so that you don't miss any My Hero Academia Vigilantes Season 2 breakdowns. With that said, I'll see you all in the next one.